Yes, so welcome. This is the last session of the May Gathering 2024. We're talking about, it's called the State of the KFA. It's just, we're talking about giving a little bit of an overview what the KFA has been doing last year and what we're planning to do in the coming year. And I just want to introduce the people who are here, the staff that are here sitting. Firstly, Leah Luong. She has a BA in Political Science, Global Politics from California State University, Long Beach. She has been involved in dissemination of Krishnamurti's teachings with the KFA after attending a retreat in Ojai. Raised amongst communities of dogmatic institutions and groups, Leah's interest in questioning the truth from a young age was inevitable. Then it's Kristy Lee. That's the second one from the right, in the middle. Kristy Lee was introduced to Krishnamurti when she attended high school at Oak Grove School, so she went to school here. Her few years here had a profound influence on her life. After college, she participated in the mature student program at Brockwood Park in England and was also staff member there for 3 years, working both at the school and the foundation. Then she worked at the Oak Grove School for 8 years, teaching ESL at the high school. After many years of managing the Krishnamurti retreat and programs at the Krishnamurti Center, she recently took on the position of Archives and Publications Director. Kristy Lee. And then finally, Francisco Mazza. Originally from Argentina, has a BA in Marketing, Design and Digital Media. He worked for the Krishnamurti Foundation Trust in England for many years and before moving to Ojai. He is currently the director of the Krishnamurti Center of Ojai and the fundraising for director for the KFA. We would like to start with a little video, which is one of the videos that actually Francisco had been working on, I think a few years ago, but it's part of one of the projects we're doing, which is called The Immeasurable, and that's a project which is specifically aimed towards young people.
We seem to think that our life, the daily life one leads, is something separate, away from the whole world of travail, misery, confusion. We think the individual, the you, is different from the rest of the world. The world, with all its atrocities, wars, inequality and injustice. When you look little more closely, then you will see what you are, your daily life, what you think, what you feel, is the external world. You are the world. You are the human being that has made this world, the world so utterly in disorder, the world that is crying in great sorrow, helpless. It is you, the human being, have built this world. So that world outside you is not different from the world in which you live, your world, your private life. So, in bringing about a radical change in the human being, in you, in the individual, you are naturally bringing about a radical change in the structure and the nature of society, which means the individual, the you, the human being, has to go into the whole structure of himself. One must understand oneself, how you are made, both biologically as well as psychologically. If you want to think rationally, sanely, you have to know yourself. You have to search out the causes of why you think and do certain things, why you are aggressive, brutal, acquisitive, dominant. dominating, possessive, which are all the causes of conflict between human beings. It's only by seeing actually what is taking place in your life, observing it very closely, without any condemnation, then you will discover for yourself that the mind can be free.
Took this little clip as an illustration maybe of the kind of responsibility we as a foundation have, of course, for the preservation firstly, also, but for the dissemination. And of course I don't want to portray it as a heavy burden or something, but of course it's a grand thing. I think this message, what Krishnamurti is talking about, is not out there and needs to be out there. So Francisco is in his role of the director of the Krishnamurti Center, which includes the retreat and includes the activities, many of the activities of the foundation, fundraising, etc. And then Kristy works in the publication and archives, and then Leah is working mostly on dissemination, marketing, and facilitates programs besides that. So as a small organization, we do a lot of different things, and the purpose of what we're trying to do here is just to illustrate the various things that the foundation is doing in order to bring out the message, what's Krishnamurti, the words of Krishnamurti in the world, in social media, etc., and how we and what's happening in Ojai itself, and of course in our new center in Sonoma. I would like maybe to start with Francisco, if he can just say a few words on that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was thinking that maybe a good way of seeing this, the work that we do, is you see different people wanting to engage with the teachings at different levels. So you can have somebody that wants to see a quote on social media, to people that want to read or watch a full public talk or series of public talks, to people that want to come to a retreat, to people that want to stay at the retreat as a residential student for 6 months or more. So I think the center and the dissemination project tries to kind of work with all those levels in a way that you don't lose the essence of the mission of the foundation and the teachings. And because in a short quote, you could say, oh, well, that could be out of context. Where did that come from? Is there a link to the original transcript? So all that, it has to be thought out, and somehow we have to find a way to preserve the essence in all the different things that we do. Also, as you can see, things move very fast online, especially. So the formats change. Now AI is our next challenge. Is there a way to incorporate artificial intelligence in a way that it makes sense, that is not distorting anything? So that's more or less the challenge that I can see for us now and in the future. And in terms of practical things, we have people that come to the retreat and stay for the weekend. There are in-person programs that are week-long or sometimes just the weekend. We have online programs that kind of opens up to people internationally. We present different themes that are based on Krishnamurti's teachings. We have an online course platform. People that want to actually engage a little bit more deeply with the material, because there is a course called Unconditionally Free, which is a 12-month course with webinars, with selective readings, with videos. But all that points at that same place. Are we able to cater to the different levels that people want to engage with the teachings? And it's a constant learning.
And maybe one of the things I would like to add, while obviously you cannot do this work if you're also not engaged in the teachings themselves. So in the foundations, all of us are somehow involved in helping with projects. I hear it, phone, huh?
It's not mine.
I think that's mine.
Oh.
I put it on silent. But
Where is it?
It's right in the blue cat hat.
What's that one? Yeah.
So we're, and so that's a big part of actually, like Leah will run retreats. We all are involved in setting up programs, organizing programs, engaging with guests and with people who attend the programs. So there's a lot of exploration going on also amongst each other on these teachings. It's not just a functionary part, and I think that's an important thing. You mentioned the residential scholar program. Do you want to say a little bit more what that is and how that, because not everybody might know what that is.
Yeah, so we have young people that come and stay at the center, the East End in Ojai. And the idea is that they come for a longer period of time than, it could be from 3 months to 6 months to a year. And they work with us in different areas. It could be, they cook or they attend the breakfast at the retreat, but also they engage with us in dialogue. And the idea is to have, and some years are better than others based on the people that come and the amount of people that apply, but the idea is to have a group every year that kind of learn from each other and they are able to stay at the retreat. And and it has been working very well, I would say, in general. It's maybe one of the challenges is because you don't want to have any. Where would be the judgment to decide if somebody is suited for this program or not? That's actually a constant conversation with us for us to even say, please stay for longer, or this is not for you. So that is actually something that we've been trying to sharpen, and it's I think it's one of the most immersive programs, because if you are there, really there is not much more to do than look at the teachings and and explore with other people this project, let's say.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I also wanted to add that we can provide the perfect environment to explore and inquire, but it doesn't always mean that the group of individuals who are there will be successful in their cooperation with one another, because it can be a lot to be exploring these things while maybe experiencing intense discomfort or feelings or whatever it's coming up, and also be in community and relationship with those other people who may also be going through those very intense things. So there's no formula to it working, but it is, the aim is to just provide it for people who are interested.
Maybe we can move on to Kristy regarding the publications and archives. And maybe, Kristy, can you list maybe the various things that you're doing in the realm of publications, and maybe after just in the realm of archives? Yeah.
Sure. So historically, the archive and publication departments have always worked very closely together, because all of the material for the publications come from the archive. So I'll first start with the publications. I started full-time in this position back around March, so I'm still kind of learning all the ropes, all the new systems in place. But what we're doing currently is, I would say 3 main things that I'm looking to do. So we work together with our colleagues at the KFT, the foundation in England, and one main person, his name is Toby. He's also new to that position, so we're learning together. And what we do is we are looking to identify areas around the world where Krishnamurti is not as well represented in publications. So one of those areas, for instance, would be Africa. Secondly, the Middle East, right? And then there are certain areas also within Asia that have slowed down in their publications of Krishnamurti books. So when we look at these areas, what we are trying to do is put together a plan to see, to investigate these markets, to find publishers as well as agents that might be willing to work with us to place more books, right? And we're, as our main concern is to make this available. So we're very willing and happy to work with individuals and the agents and and small publishing houses to get this out there. Secondly, what we're doing is we go to at least one book fair a year and 2 every other year. And we attend the Frankfurt Book Fair in October. It's the biggest international book fair in the industry. I attended the Frankfurt Book Fair in the fall in October, and there were over 100,000 people of the industry that attended from across the world. And what was amazing is that they have what they call public days. It's the last 2 days of the fair. It's a 5-day fair. And the last 2 days, they open it up to the public. And it was amazing to see the number of people, different ages, it was amazing. Families came with their kids, teenagers were there, parents, grandparents, they all came looking and also buying, because the last 2 days, publishers are trying to sell their books. And, but the interest of people in actually published work was quite high. I was genuinely surprised. There were about 100,000 public visitors in those 2 days. So you can see the scope of the Frankfurt Book Fair. And that's an yearly event that we attend. It's a great opportunity for us to meet with our publishers, to continue and strengthen our relationships, and also to scope out potential new publishers in these areas that we are underrepresented, because almost every country is represented at the Frankfurt Book Fair. So that's what we do kind of in our downtime when we're not meeting with publishers. And thirdly, let me go back. The second book fair that we attend is the Beijing International Book Fair. China has been a market that has grown phenomenally. It had a period where, due to certain restrictions with the Chinese government, publishers were not as willing to publish. But in the last few years, the interest has grown more and more. So our plan is to attend every other year the Beijing Book Fair. And so we will be going in June for that. And while we are there, we will be doing not only attending the book fair, but going to a couple of places within Asia, in China, to do programs. Jaap will be joining me for that. And the third thing that we are trying to do is there are a lot of books that are in print, but there are a lot of books that are out of print in the English language. Krishnamurti was very prolific, so his publications were prolific as well. But within the States and also in England, only the main books, right, and new material are of interest to our main English language publishers. So we have this kind of a 3-year plan to make sure all of the back titles. And that's what we call the older publications that are out of print, that's not not available by major publishers, that we, as the KFA, will take on the role of the publisher and put them back in print, but on a print-on-demand capacity. The print-on-demand kind of part of publications have grown tremendously in the past 15 years. So it's easy for us to work with our distributor to make sure that they are back in print and distribute it within the States and also internationally in English-speaking countries like Australia, New Zealand, and England. So, what?
One thing to it, it's just that when we go to China, we visit, of course, Beijing, because there's the book fair, there's Xi'an, there's Chengdu. We will have programs in these cities and book launches. The publishers organize book launches in those towns. And there's also quite an upsurge in Vietnam at the moment, especially in audiobooks, which is really surprising. And so we will help with a book launch there in Hanoi, I think, or Ho Chi Minh. I forgot which one.
Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah.
And there's a chance, or a big chance, that we do help with a launch in Malaysia also, in Kuala Lumpur. So that will be. So there's a lot of activity in those places happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I was going to go into that. So I term it as our Asian tour. So it will be gone for a month. And during that time, we will be in Korea, China, Vietnam, definitely with those three, and with the potential of Japan and, as Jaap said, Malaysia, right? It's very interesting how the event in Vietnam came about. There is one individual who is very keen on Krishnamurti. He's an older gentleman. And just out of his interest, he started just translating, especially the three commentaries, commentaries on Living Series 1, 2, 3. And another younger woman who was also very keen on Krishnamurti, they made contact, right? And she wanted to make sure these books got published. And she's kind of like the person behind really encouraging and pushing, making contact with for publishers, helping this older gentleman, pitch to publishers, and also last year she organized an event in Ho Chi Minh City, and over 100 people attended, right? So when we can make connections like that in these countries, that's what we're really looking for. We really want to make those. I think Corey put it as the grounds, kind of the people on the ground who know their country, their markets, and can be a support for us, and we can be a support for them to make this available in these countries. So it was a really kind of a nice way to be able to go there. This gentleman will be there, and there will be a book launch in Ho Chi Minh City, as well as just an event, possibly it's kind of a discussion presentation in Ho Chi Minh City. So, otherwise, I do also want to say that since the last year, when we had the last presentation of the state of the KFA, if you just want to know some information about contracts and things. We still have about a little over 115 active contracts. This is translations and English titles. And we did acquire 30 new contracts last year. And so far this year, we have about 12, and we're working on about another 7. We get a big boost typically after the book fairs, after we've met with publishers. And I did not bring the 2 books, but the 2 newest books that we did publish was Can Conflict End, as well as What is Meditation. They're smaller size books, and this is all new material. And it was published by Writer, which is part of Penguin UK in England. And there is a new book coming out, also by an English publisher called Watkins, and that will be coming out later this year, and the title is Where Can Peace Be Found? So once it's out, we'll let you guys all know. Yeah. So, I think that is,
Publications.
yeah. I mean, I could talk,
No,
say it, but I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So then in the archives, we have 3 archives around the world. So the first archive is here, excuse me, at the KFA, at the, thank you. Something went down the wrong way. So 3 archives, one here in Ojai, California, which is at the Krishnamurti Center in the East End. Maybe we'll come back for the archives.
Yeah.
We can say something else.
So Leah, you want to say something about dissemination? and
Sure,
dissemination
yeah.
Projects.
Yeah, one of my main responsibilities with the KFA is our online dissemination plan, which is a continuous strategic effort to essentially make the teachings available to the widest possible audience. There's so many different ways to engage with the teachings. You know, I always like to mention my little sister who's in her early 20s. She would much, much rather watch something like that, especially if she was unfamiliar with Krishnamurti's work, than a 2-hour-long YouTube video that's in black and white from like the 70s or something. And so the main question and challenge has always been, how do we make this material available to as many people as possible in a way that doesn't change the material, but is also in a format that they're going to actually like click on. You know, because I think it's super valuable to have these original talks that are 2+ hours long, and there's a place for that, and that's definitely, you know, it's there for those who are definitely serious about the teachings, but have also gotten to a point where it's not so overwhelming. I remember when I was first introduced to Krishnamurti, the first book I had was Freedom from the Known, and I would read one sentence and go, okay, I just need to just take a couple hours just to even digest this one sentence. And I remember it being so new and unfamiliar to me that it just felt really overwhelming. And I was wondering, you know, is there a way that we can really reach more young people and people who are unfamiliar or newer to this type of work? So we have a lot of different types of sub-projects within this plan. We have the Krishnamurti portal. It's krishnamurti.org, which is a repository of Krishnamurti material where you can have, you can read full excerpts and watch videos or audio if it's available. And those excerpts are generated using AI. It's still in the beta phase, so it's definitely not perfect. The great and not so great thing about the AI is that it tends to select things that we normally would kind of gloss over. So it has the ability to, or potential to, present an excerpt to you that you know, maybe a human wouldn't have necessarily selected to present. On the other side, you know, it's not perfect. So we do ask our users who are on there, you know, they can give us feedback on the different types of excerpts that are there. We also have, you know, our various social media channels, Instagram, Facebook. Social media is also, and the entire online space is a very dynamic space. So platforms that were once very, very popular before are pretty much obsolete now. Platforms that maybe didn't exist or had only a few users on them before, like TikTok, have exploded now. And for a lot of young people especially, that's like the main platform that they use. So our aim is to be able to make this material available in different formats on all these different types of platforms. And the other thing is that different people, especially generationally, use technology and the internet in different ways. I know most of us are on our phones, but even within our phones, certain generations really love to use Facebook. The younger generations, they really don't like that. They're mostly on TikTok and Instagram. And even within those platforms, there's different ways that you can present that type of content. There's photos, there's video, there's carousel posts, there's long and short form video. So our aim is to really just, I don't like to call it marketing because we're not really selling anything. We're just making the information, the teachings available on these different platforms, and we're just saying, here it is. However you want to imbibe the teachings, you can kind of choose if you want to be at the shallow end. We have an online magazine called The Immeasurable. That was one of our videos. It's mainly short thematic videos on topics like fear or loneliness, and it's all original Krishnamurti material in a more modern format. That tends to be very popular with people who aren't familiar with the teachings, and also younger people too. We have different things like short excerpts on our YouTube channels, or you can dive into the 2-hour ones. But I think I would just really not like if someone, like my little sister, was turned away from the material because it wasn't meant for someone like her, like a young person. So, and also while keeping in mind our audience who is already there, our existing audience. And so we nurture that as well. We have other projects like the Krishnamurti Radio, which is a 24/7 broadcast of Krishnamurti material. We also have the podcast, the Immeasurable podcast. So there's so many different ways to be able to interact with the teachings. I'm not sure if there was something else I missed there.
One thing that I was thinking is that we can see that that's a challenge, and maybe there's nothing that we have to do more than just try to almost get out of the way and just have the material presented out there. But you can see more and more how, and there is like a trend, or like everything has become spiritual. There is and self-improvement, right? And self-help, self-improvement.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of that on social media, and sometimes we get an email of somebody that does some kind of thing, and they say it's exactly like Krishnamurti, right? So you just have to be able to, how do you position Krishnamurti in the right place, as it were? That it's nothing like that. It's also very radical, without, like there are some themes, some templates that if you use it, you fall into a specific category, So it's like all very subtle, and we don't want, of course, K material to be in any category. We think that that's what he would want for us to do. So that's a constant looking and producing creatively new content that has its own thing, separate from any trend.
The other thing is that, Krishnamurti's work is not like you say this one mantra and then you're enlightened. It's not necessarily something that a lot of people want to hear or may not even be ready to hear. There's a lot of different other self-help, self-improvement things on social media that are much, much easier to sell, that get lots of likes. And I totally understand why. I mean, I think it's very attractive to just tell yourself, okay, if I just do these 4 steps, or if I just listen to this one guru, then I'm going to be set for life or something. And Krishnamurti is not about that at all. I mean, it's
very difficult to popularize.
Yes.
I think that's maybe and that you cannot romanticize it. There's very little romantic. It's not like. And also not very sentimental, so it's so devout, and those things sell a lot, right? So if those things are liked a lot, so and to bring out things that Krishnamurti pointed out, like time. You know, it sounds a bit boring, and if you see it for the first time, so how to create the right balance? Because for a while we also were a little bit taken, like, oh, we should bring that stuff out of Krishnamurti that really caters to where the audience would be, right? So bring things about conflict, bring things about livelihood, bring the theme books. I don't know, for those who are familiar with Krishnamurti's books, there's a whole series on theme books, which is somewhat tries to cater, so where are people going and where is self-help, more or less, and then you insert Krishnamurti in the middle. But there's limitations to that. You somehow lose the radicalness of Krishnamurti, which actually that's what you want to bring out. And so that's a balance, trial and error, and we're just working on it, reflecting on it, and we're not trying to be perfect, but somehow kick the ball in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, something like there is no self to improve.
Yeah.
Somebody would say, right? But there is no becoming.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
the nitty-gritty. And how do you bring that up?
Yeah, there's not much self-help in that. Kristy, are you ready for the archives?
Yes. Okay, I'll start over again. So, as I was saying, there are 3 official archives around the world. So one here in Ojai, California, one is with our sister foundation in Brockwood in England, and the third one is in Chennai in India. So the bulk of the original material is actually housed between our foundation and our sister foundation in England. And the foundation in India houses a duplicate copy. So if anything should happen to one foundation, at least there would be the full collection at least safeguarded in other foundations. So what we have been working, the 2 foundations and also India, for I think decades, and it's just come to an end now, was digitizing all the original source materials, from talks, interviews, meetings, right, audios and video, and also verifying all the transcripts and then printing them on acid-free papers and making sure each of the 3 foundations had a complete set. And that has just recently kind of come to an end, so it was a major undertaking. For our foundation here in Ojai, what we are looking at now is processing what we call our sub-collections. And sub-collections are, for instance, the collection that Mary Zimbalist left of materials to us, all right? So we're slowly going through the letters, the photographs, you know, and looking at what is in her collection that is relevant, right, to the Krishnamurti and his teachings. And there's also a collection that was left by Evelyn Blau, as well as Joseph Ross, but one more other person. Why can't I remember her name? Do you remember?
No,
Sorry, I can't.
skip it.
Yeah, I'll skip it. But so we have about 4 collections that needs processing, and it takes time to look through the collection and to catalog it and then put it into our database. We have a huge database server that is housed here up at the Krishnamurti Center in our archive building. And the physical server is here, and the other 2 foundations actually remotely access it. So this is really the most valuable, database system that we have right now. It has all of that, all of the information of what the 3 archives house, right? And so we make sure that that system is running properly, and we also put in redundancy programs so that it has copies. So it's a security measure, so if one fails, we still have a complete copy. Other than that, we work with the other foundations, and also when we get little requests from researchers, right? Just kind of day-to-day housekeeping, reviewing of certain areas and cleaning things up, and that's what happens with the archives.
Like maybe one project that is an overlap between the publications and the archives. There are many letters of Krishnamurti that we're having, and the KFA board has approved to create a book, to bring out a book of the letters, but extract only that bit that's related to the teachings. You know, I mean, if you look at the letters, and I don't know if you've seen them online, some are published. It's sometimes very mundane. Bring my toothpaste, or book my flight. But there are also quite a few letters that still have teachings in it, which is not somewhere else. So. Originally that project would have been, the senior editor was Mark Lee, who of course passed away. So we're now looking for another senior editor for that book, who will, and that's a long-term project. I mean, you can imagine, I mean, Krishnamurti, and especially in the older, 2030, at that time there were many more letters written. Now you would compile an email book or something like that. But at the time, so we have letters, and so that's a huge project, and I think that will take maybe 2 to 3 years to really get that first organize it, then get the right selections, and then have editors going over it, and create context around it, so that you know what it's about, how it's related to other things. Some things that I think maybe will be interesting to talk about. We do a lot of programs. We do programs at the center here in Ojai. Almost monthly there are programs, and a variety of programs. Of course, Francisco mentioned the online courses, facilitated online courses and non-facilitated online courses. We have dialogue programs almost monthly, and in-person programs here in Ojai, and in our new center in Sonoma. So if you're anybody here in the room or in the stream is watching and is interested in those programs in the Bay Area, which is the center is in Occidental, which is just 1.5 hour or an hour north of San Francisco Airport. And monthly we have programs there, silent retreats, or we have dialogue programs, or combination with videos and dialogue. The Sonoma Center is not open for visitors. It's not like, hey, you can just drive up there, and like the center here in Ojai, where many people come every day. But it's only when there are programs we open it up, and that has to do with traffic restrictions that we're having still.
So Jaap, how would one get involved if they're interested in that?
Sign up for programs. Yeah, look online when there are programs, and sign up for programs. At the moment we're sending out emails for those programs only to the Bay Area community, but they will be listed. They are listed on our website, so anybody who's interested, sign up. Yeah.
Krishnamurticenter.org.
Krishnamurticenter.org. There you go. A larger project which is in the application already for 7 years, and which we hope, where the application hopefully is going to finish this year in September, is we want to, of course the whole digital world, as you can see, is expanding, but we feel as the foundation, the board of directors have really said, hey, what's really important is in-person, in-depth studies. So we want to expand the residential scholar program, where young people, especially, but it's not only for young people, but for young people at university age and say to 35, can come and stay for, at minimum a few months, but at maximum a year. They can stay on campus for a year. And at the moment we have placed, the residential scholars we have placed for about 3, but we would like to expand it to about 12. 8 to 12, And that involves building, not only accommodation, we also need building for to have a proper kitchen so we can cook properly on that in that building. And with a little bit of luck, we hope this year to get all the permits in place within 3 years, do all the grading and some solar and rainwater capture tanks, and then the 3 years after. We have to raise the funds for that. We would like to get the buildings in place. So that's a huge undertaking, which is lined up, and we have gone step by step and consistently put that in place. So that's our next big project. I think that's. I feel pretty complete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to add? Or we want to open up for a few questions.
Contact with Victoria, British Columbia?
A little bit, yeah. Jeff Brown, who was a former board member, he's very much involved there, and we're in contact with him.
There's a question for you, Kristy.
Yeah.
From the audience.
A mic, yeah. Go to the microphone. Yeah.
I heard that one of your two newest books, What is Meditation? I didn't catch this other one.
Can conflict end?
Oh, when can conflict end?
Can conflict end? Yeah. I just heard there was a question from an online viewer.
Yeah, we have a question from the live stream. I think this one is for you, Kristy. Is there a directory of all published material which shows texts/talks that are possibly published in several volumes?
Wow.
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah. Is there a directory of all published material which shows text and talks that are possibly published in several volumes?
Well, directory, a lists exist. We have reports of all the events. We have also lists of all the published works. Yeah.
So this is actually it's a question that would combine both the publications database as well as the archive database. So we do have a database that can has that kind of material, because in the archive database it shows it matches the book with all of the events that it's published in there, right? So you can find out that information that way. But it's not something that is public. Yeah.
Events, you mean the public talks of
Exactly.
Krishnamurti that appeared in that book.
Yeah.
There is a database that tells you what it
Exactly.
is. Right?
Yeah.
We have another one for you. Are there any plans for further collected/complete works publications?
So if that person's asking if we're going to have more than the 17 volumes that we already have, we don't have any plans for it. But if they're asking if there's plans for it to be in publication in translation, yes. China especially, they are almost at the end of publishing the whole volume. We have some volumes published in Vietnam, and there's several other countries. It's also in Spanish, been translated. Yeah.
Not completely in
Not
published,
completely, yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
few volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So only in China actually is it almost at its tail end of 17 volumes.
And we have a question for all of us. How are the panelists going to continue on their journey while working on spreading K's teachings?
The journey of self-discovery or something like that.
Our own
They didn't
personal-
specify which one.
Good. I don't know how to answer
Yeah, I
that.
don't know. Like everybody
Well,
else.
I think you kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier about when you were talking about the staff living the teachings. And that being a really important component of the
Yeah.
work that we do. So it's
Yeah.
not just the, getting the books published or publishing things on Instagram, but it's also the other part of it,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is why we are actually all here in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the things that I really have enjoyed coming back to this work. This was work I used to do when I worked for the KFT in England, but that was about 20 years ago. So coming back to this work after that time, what I like is I'm more closely in contact with the teachings. I read it every day. And so what I've noticed is there are more moments during my day when I'm working that I actually pause and because of what I am reading, the material that I'm in contact with. So in that sense, that my own journey still kind of continues, and it is, as always, has been what motivated me to start working and be part of this.
There is one person there that has a question. Yeah.
I just wanted to know, the program you mentioned, Jaap, that is in build, is it comparable to the mature student program that they have in Brockwood, or did I not understand it correctly?
Yes, and that's so we for the last 8 years or 9 years we had a program like that, but it's just smaller because the setup in Brockwood is much larger, right? They have a center and a school, and as people can work there. At our place, it's just a retreat. So we have about 3, but we want to expand that to about 11, 12. So yeah.
And the idea is that students follow a university course like online, but also do some.
No, they will just they would really come there, study the teachings of Krishnamurti. That will be the main focus. And that's actually, but actually the big challenge is to find young people with that interest. It's actually interesting, because it's not an easy, I mean, to think about work and to come for a year and to do a university course that will give you better employment is easier to do than say, hey, I'm going to do a year, I'm going to study. Yeah, study what? Understanding yourself? What? You know what I mean? It's like it's not so. It's not part of our culture. It's not part of our culture. So that's But we're trying to promote it and work it out and communicate this consistently. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
A few times on Instagram, I've tried to respond in a sort of dialogue way, where it's been flagged as misinformation, especially when talking about authority and things like that. I wonder if you guys have encountered that or have any ideas, because especially going to China and the way Instagram and Facebook are now is becoming more more censored, I guess, and especially when I'm dealing with things like authority. I don't know if you encountered that.
I mean, the only thing I can tell you is rarely has happened that there is a post that, especially on Facebook, that maybe mentions something about authority or something like that about governments, and is flagged as political. And if it is political, you have to do different procedure with Facebook in order to identify yourself more clearly. And we don't want to be, involved at that level. But I have to say, it's been rare. It hasn't been it's not common for us. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, not typically for us, but it does happen from time to time.
Go to the microphone.
I have two questions, maybe for Kristy and Leah, but whoever. One is when someone is inquiring to me about Krishnamurti teaching and they're new, usually I refer them to the Beyond Myth and Tradition videos by Evelyn Blau, which I know are online now, and I was wondering if you found those to be good short introductions. And the second question, I think you were addressing it a little bit, is are there certain countries like China, or maybe North Korea or Iran or something, where it's difficult or impossible to actually get the teachings disseminated in the language there?
In terms of publications, North Korea is a no-go zone, but I don't know what the public themselves have access to, because there's there are always ways of getting information in. But officially, no, nothing is allowed to be published there in terms of Krishnamurti. With China, it kind of goes, as I said, it goes up and down depending on what the government is doing, and the publishers have to read that and figure out if they can publish and if not. And sometimes they do stay away from certain topics. If in a book, if in a talk, Krishnamurti talks about nationality, patriotism, right, things like that, they might not want to publish those books, but they might want to publish something that he wrote about death, right? So they tend to know their markets better, and then they do the kind of picking and choosing, right? In terms of the Middle East, there have been books that have been published, right? But it's not a thriving market. So the Middle East, as I said, is one of those areas that we would like to figure out a way to have more books published. And I think it's not so much of a lack of interest within certain groups, but how to get it in there without making it, or people viewing it as political, or going against very strong beliefs within those cultures. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
address the other part of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was one second
other
aspect.
yeah.
Yeah, I think for maybe someone who's new to the teachings, I usually give them both of our YouTube channels. One is called The Immeasurable, or they can just go to theimmeasurable.org. And there's a lot of great videos there that are digestible. And the source is always available, so if they want to read more or go more in depth, they can have access to that as well. And we also have another YouTube channel for the center, the K Center here. It's Krishnamurti Educational Center, and we have a lot of short excerpts. There's a playlist there. I think it's called Excerpts, and that's also another great place to start. And it has a lot of good, pointed questions that people have asked Krishnamurti, that he answers typically in about 5 to 20 minutes. I think you might be able to say some things about Beyond Myth and Tradition.
Beyond Myth and Tradition is, of course, a very good series, but I would say if it's somebody new, and if they're younger, they might not want to see Krishnamurti. It sounds weird, but it's an older man talking to you. But if it's somehow like the Immeasurable videos that we made, my experience is it connects much better. Because somehow it's not an older man who speaks. No, it's somehow framed in a much more modern fashion, and it's short. It's very concise. So that's where I am. Yeah.
I haven't noticed online. For years, I've been trying to find dialogues or access to dialogues, because to come to this center is, a few hundred miles. I did find while I was here that there are some dialogues happening. I wonder if it's possible to include that on the website or create that, because it's a great way for people to approach and participate.
There's a website called K-Infonet, and it has that kind of information. We had it on our website, but we had to take it all off because some of these groups, because these groups are not organized by us. They're completely independent, and some of these groups do really fantastic work, but sometimes it doesn't. And then if you, and then when they start complaining to us and holding us accountable for it, it becomes really a problem. So what we've said, we don't promote things that we really don't have under our control, but they're all listed on K-Infonet, and that's where you could go to find connections on that. Yeah.
Is it kinfonet.org?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're done.
There
right?
is one question actually for Kristy.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know why there are so few translated volumes in Spanish.
No, all books are translated in Spanish, as
Yeah.
far as we know.
Mm.
Yeah.
We have, from very early on, there has been a Spanish language publisher in Spain that have been publishing the work of Krishnamurti very consistently. So the majority of the Krishnamurti titles are translated and published in Spanish.
We have on our website also Spanish language books.
Yeah,
for sale.
we actually sell in our bookstore about 6 or 7 titles.
Yeah.
And Kairos is the name of the publisher in Spain. They have quite a number.
So
Yeah.
and of course, I mean, also online stream or the camera. Spanish is becoming more and more important in California. So we have tried. We have started experimenting with Spanish language programs, dialogue programs, and we're going to expand more on that because it's such a large part of the California population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually did have our very first online program. It was a 5-day program, all facilitated in the Spanish language. And we hope, like Jaap said, we hope to continue that. And it brought people, participants from all over the Spanish-speaking countries. So.
Good. I
Yeah.
think it's time. Thank you very much. I think it was really a wonderful weekend, and see you all next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.